Hi everybody, today is math for Tuesday, April 7th, and we will be on set 119. So it is an odd set for those who have half sets, and obviously for all who have all of the numbers. So today we're going to talk about multiplying decimal numbers. What is a tenth of 1/10? We'll use pictures to answer this question. So the first picture we're going to see a square, and that is separated into tenths. The square represents one whole, and each column is 1/10 of the whole. We shaded 1/10, so we can see that that equals 1/10. See if I can get it to reflect a little less. To find 1/10 of a tenth, we then took this part that was separated into tenths, and we divided those columns into 10 additional columns, so we now have 100 squares. So 1/10 of a tenth, so we have a tenth, and then 1/10 of that tenth equals 1/100th. So we would see that as 1/10 times 1/10 equals 1/100th. Okay, you can also use decimal numbers to find the same thing. So that was using fractions and using pictures to illustrate the fractions. But you can also say 1/10 written as a decimal times 1/10 written as a decimal, and we multiply that. And then we have 1, 0, and then we bump it over 1, 2. So it is in the hundredths place. When we set up a decimal multiplication problem, we do not have to line up our decimal points. And I've talked about this before. That is only needed in addition and subtraction. So for this one, you just set it up and multiply it like it is a whole number. And then you go back later, you count how many numbers are, so wherever there is a decimal, you count how many numbers are behind the decimal point. And on both of parts of the problem, however many places is how you bump the decimal point over. For example, if I have 12 hundredths and I'm multiplying by the whole number 6. 6 times 2 is 12. 6 times 1 plus 1 is 7. So I just multiplied that like it's a normal, well, and then 6 times 0 is 0. Whole number. Then I go and I say there are 2 places that come after the decimal point. There's no decimal point here. So I'm going to take my decimal number and I'm going to bump it over 1, 2, because that's how many places came after. And I have 0.72 hundredths. Let's try another one. If I have 25 as a whole number, and I'm multiplying that by 3/10, I just multiply it like it's all a whole number. Okay, 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times 2 is 6 plus 1 is 7. And then I would go and I would do all my zeros, add it. And then I only have one number that has a decimal point. So I'm going to just come and I bump it one time, which means that that would equal 7 5/10. Let's try one more. I had two decimal numbers that I'm multiplying. So if I have 15 hundredths and I have 9/10, remember I do not have to line up my decimal points. So they're not lined up, and then I just multiply them like they're whole numbers. So 9 times 5 is 45. 9 times 1 is 9 plus 4, 13. 9 times 0 is 0 plus 1 is 1. Now, I do have to count up all my decimal places. So I have 1, 2 after my first number, and 1. I would add those up. So I have 3 total places I need to bump my decimal number over. So I say 1, 2, 3. So my number is 135 thousandths. Okay, the rule for multiplying decimal numbers is multiply then count, right? That's what we've been doing. We multiply the digits, then we count the total number of decimal places in the factors. Then, starting from the right side of the answer, we count over that many digits to the left and mark the decimal point. So I'm going to draw a decimal chart to show you what we're doing for multiplication and the addition and subtraction that we've already learned. We're going to put it on a table called a decimals chart. All right, so here we have our decimals chart. So you can see if you're adding or subtracting, you line up the decimal points. They have to be lined up in order to add and subtract. So you would follow this from here to here. If you're multiplying, then you follow from here to here. So adding or subtracting, you line up the decimal points, and then after you've added or subtracted, you place a decimal point on whole numbers, fill in empty spaces with 0. Multiply. To do multiplication, you multiply them, then you count decimal places. And after that, you place a decimal point on whole numbers, fill in empty places with 0. That is if you need to, like if we have, this part is if you have like 4.2 plus 6, you're going to add a decimal point and fill in with zeros. That's what this part means. And that's only when that's necessary. Okay, so I want you guys to do practice problems. Do every other one. So do A, C, E, G. A, C, E, G. And then you have set 119. And that is, like I said, odd. Let me see if there's any extra that you need to do in there. Number 14. So number 14 will be your extra number for set 119. All right, Math 76. Today we're talking about sales tax and writing percents as fractions, part 2. Sales tax is a tax charged on the sale of an item based on the selling price. So if you guys have ever gone to the store and you look at something to buy, like if you took your own money and you're like, oh, Mom, I want to buy this. It's only $2.99 and I have $3. She will tell you, well, you have to account for sales tax because that is an additional tax put on the price of the object. If the sales tax rate is 6%, then for every dollar you purchase, so it's 6% of every dollar because percent means out of 100, right? And that's the dollar. So you have an additional 6% of the dollar added on as sales tax. The tax is collected by the seller and is sent to the government. So the tax the government gets on everything we purchase. To calculate the sales tax on a purchase, we multiply the purchase price by the tax rate, and then we round the product to the nearest cent. So if the sales tax rate is 8%, what is the tax on an item with a price of $6.48? So this is what that means. If you have an item that costs $6.48 and sales tax is 8%, then you are going to multiply that by 8%. So what is 8%? 8% as a decimal, 8%. So we're going to multiply that by 8%. We just talked about in Math 65 how to multiply this. So we know we don't have to line up our decimal points. It doesn't matter. And this one, it actually does line up. So it looks like this. And then let's multiply. So we have 8 times 8, which is 64. 8 times 4, which is 32, plus 6, which is 38. 8 times 6 is 48, plus 3, we have 51. Okay, and then we have to move it over as many decimals. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So our sales tax is 5184, but we know that we need to round it to the nearest cent. So the nearest cent, or centum, right, in Latin means our hundredths place. So we look at this place, go to the number next to it. If it's 5 or greater, we will round it up. If it's less than 5, then we keep it at that number. So 8 is greater than 5. So we will round that up to 52 cents. So the sales tax is 52 cents. So you would go back and you would add 52 cents to this price to see how much the total price would cost. Okay, so we then go back. Oh, no, we're gonna do a new one. Okay, so it says, what is the total cost? So you need to pay attention to how they're asking the questions. This one said, if the sales tax is 8%, what is the tax? So they just wanted to know how much the tax was. On the next one, it says, what is the total cost of an item plus tax? So you're gonna have to do two steps. You're gonna first have to find out how much tax is, and then you're gonna have to go back and add that to our original product. So they want us to start with a product that is $8.96. $8.96, and our tax rate is going to be 6%, which we know is 0.06. Now we apply that to find the tax, how much the tax is. 6 times 6 is 36. 6 times 9 is 54, plus 3 is 57. 6 times 8 is 48, plus 5, so we end up with 53. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We have to round this to the nearest cent, so we're going to take our 3, look at our 7. We know that that's greater than 5. So we're going to round this to 54 cents is our sales tax. Then to find the total cost, we say $8.96 plus 54 cents. 6 and 4 is 10. 9 and 1 is 10 plus 5 is 15. We carry that straight down because we're adding 8 plus 1 is 9. So the total cost of the item would be $9.50. Okay, so you guys will be doing some of those problems today for your practice problems. Those will be your A and B practice problems. And then the next part is writing percents as fractions, part 2. Okay, recall that when a percent is a fraction with a denominator of 100. We write a percent in fraction form by removing the percent sign and putting 100 over it. So if we have 50%, we write it in the correct form by saying 50 over 100. Okay? We then reduce the fraction to lowest terms. If the percent includes a fraction, we actually divide by 100 to simplify the fraction. So if I have, and we have all found this percent, 33 1/3%, to actually put it in correct form, 33 1/3%, we do write the whole thing, 33 1/3 over 100, okay? In this case, we can then turn this into a division problem. We divide 33 1/3 by 100, okay? So let's figure out how to do this. So another way to write this would be 33 1/3 divided by 100. So in order to do this division problem, we have to turn this into an improper fraction. So 3 times 33 is 99 plus 1. We have 100 over 3 divided by, which actually means multiplied by, right? 1 over 100. So this crosses out and we are left with 1/3. So 33 1/3 is equal to 1/3. Now they want us to convert 3 1/3% to a fraction. 3 1/3% to a fraction. So this is like saying 3 1/3 over 100, which means 3 1/3 divided by 100. We have to turn this into an improper fraction. 3 times 3 is 9 plus 1 is 10. And then we multiply that because we know that we have to flip the reciprocal. So 1 over 100, and we can cross cancel. 10 divided by 10 is 1. 100 divided by 10 is 10. So we multiply that straight across. We have 1/30. So 3 1/3% equals 1/30. Okay, so you guys will do A, B, C, D of your practice problems. And then 119, is odd. Let me see if we have any extra ones. Nope, it is covered in that. So you just have odd or all depending on your test score. All right, and let me know if you guys have any questions on any of the math.